All right, party people in the place to be. We are back finally with this one. I didn't know if we were gonna get this one out of the gate, man. This one almost seemed doomed there for a minute, like it had a curse on it. But oh man, we are back with our good friend Richard. We're here to talk about Bam and Glam issue 8, alive now on Kickstarter. Link in the description. If you have not backed yet, you can back all 8 issues digital. He's got all kinds of covers. He's got all kinds of figures. Get on it. We also have a really cool announcement that is going to be coming up later on in the show regarding the campaign. But until then, Richard, man, how the hell are you, brother?
Yeah, great. I mean, thanks for having me on. And the videos always, they make the comic look even better. That intro sequence you edited, I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, no, good. Just manic with the day job and trying to fit in making a comic on the side.
I hear that, man. Day jobs get in the way of a lot of stuff. Like our last episode too was just freaking the Precious episode. We had to reschedule that one twice because it just conflicting schedules, this and that. So yeah, day jobs are, but you got to pay the bills, right? So
that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only way to get the fun done. Yeah, you got to pay the bills, and then you eat into your spare time.
And yeah, exactly. As long as you don't hate your day job, then you're ahead of the game, right?
I'm quite lucky. My day job's really good, actually. It's quite good.
Yeah.
It's just I just wish I could dial it back a little and have a bit more time to do comics.
Yeah.
So Richard, issue 8, man. Like, have you gotten here as fast as you expected? Has it taken longer? Like, how has this journey been so far, man? You are at the last issue of this first arc of Bam and Glam, man. Like,
it's I do you know, when I first thought about this years ago, I had no idea how I was going to do it, and it just, I don't know. I think it's happened quicker than I expected. Even though we're now 3 years into making comics, to say that we've been doing comics for 3 years, that's just insane. I never would have thought that actually would happen. And I remember when I first was going to do Blam and Glam, it was going to be an 8-chapter graphic novel. I was going to do it in one go, which would have taken years. I'm glad I did it as issues, but yeah, it just seems to be flying by. I don't know if that's because we're getting older and life getting quicker, but yeah, 3 years later, 8 issues. That's mad.
You have had a really, really consistent campaign structure, and you've had the turnaround very good. Like since I've been I've been reading since issue 2. And it's been like, what, almost every 3 months you've had an issue out, right? Around?
Yeah, it's around that. Yeah, exactly. It's I think it's 3 months to turn around an issue, and then a month to, make sure it's all shipping and moving out. Yeah, I think we had 3 in 1 year, 3 in another, and then this year so far has been 2. And I think that will take us to, when I say a year, it's funny. We in the UK we have to go by tax years, which is April to April, and so I'd measure it that way. I don't go January to December and think how many I crack out. It's what you do in the tax year, because unfortunately, you then start owing the government tax and stuff like that. So yes, where you have to work it. But 2 this year, but it's gonna. I keep saying to myself, actually, this one's going to be 50% longer. It's 36 pages instead of 24, because I think the finale of the first season needs that bit more. I want to reveal a bit more before we end on the cliffhanger of season, to take us into season 2.
But yeah, it's been quite the journey, because your initial Kickstarter was the sketch, right? The sketchbook with Bam and Glam. Was that your first? That was your first campaign where Bam and Glam made her first appearance, and that was in 2019, June 6th, 2019. Yeah. And that campaign did fairly good. Like in regards to Kickstarters, that campaign did. I have my amounts here in Canadian, but you're asking for 1,700 Canadian, and that campaign did 3,500 Canadian. And that was your first. That was your first go. To today, now your campaigns are pulling like consistently 30,000 Canadian. You went from, that's 10 times. It grew 10 times over the 8 issues. And you've been pulling that in consistently for the last 4 issues too, right?
Yeah, it's been around.
issue
crazy.
5 was the big jump, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 was the one where it just really, it really, and I think at that time it was almost doubling each time.
Yeah.
Not quite, but and my mind was just like, wow, people really, really want to read this. It's crazy. 6 was a similar one, and then 7 dropped slightly, but I think 7 was more about because a lot was going on in the world, you know, and I think that was having a knock-on effect on quite a few campaigns on Kickstarter, which was crazy.
Not just Kickstarter, but just in the comics industry in general.
Yeah, that's when a couple labels went out of print, right? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh wow. No, I missed that. That's mad. But that's the thing is trying to keep up with, you know, trying to not letting things like that, put you off carrying on. And I think the good thing is that everyone's, you know, I've had such a good response from each issue where people are loving where the story goes. I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to get to the end, and then people actually realize who our main character is. I know you guys are, you know, because you know you're in on some of the things that we've been doing behind the scenes on the comic, which is quite cool, you know, because you're both in it. But I'm looking forward to you both reading 8 when I finished 8 and seeing if it married up with where you thought it was going. You know, because it's because I've known who she is since the beginning, and I just can't, you know. And the clues are there on many different levels, but we'll see what people think. If they go, yeah, I knew that all along, then that'd be great. But the funny thing is, I'm planning I've been planning season 2, and I know where that's going to go. Like I always say at the beginning, I know where the end goes, and then I need to work out the stuff as we go through it. And I think there's an interesting opportunity for me to play with where the genre goes next. You know, if this is about demons, where in season 2 it might pivot or go to another place. And the more I think about it, the more I want to go that way.
Well, so you're thinking about changing genres. You're gonna go from sci-fi to maybe to horror, or
it's still sci-fi. It's still her, but I think if we look at the theme, this is demons and invasion, right? And I think that where I would like to twist season 2 could be I think it'll still be her and and all the craziness happening, but it's going to be what is the new protagonist? What's the new scenario where it will take you? You know.
Well, and how much time are you kind of allowing yourself to get that started, to kind of get the ball rolling on season 2, or have you started that already?
I mean, it started in here. So every time because I always write when I'm walking the dog. So when I'm walking the dog, in my head, I'm writing the stuff, and then when I sit down to write the actual issues, the thing I'll do, which I did before, was to write down a basic episode treatment where it's like a 1-pager, which does change. Even when I wrote the 1-pagers, it changes. But I know where it's going to go. But
Jonathan Elkin, he's in the chat asking if season 2 will also be an 8-issue series for the second arc.
Yeah, I think I quite like that. I quite like that number. So the second arc will be 8 issues. Yeah, I think it's really good. Jay always trying to be the first to back, always the second one. But yeah, we're gonna go that way. But it's funny because you think where you can go with the story, and I can't spoil it because I want people to read it when it happens. But there's quite a lot that happen in this issue, which sets up all sorts of things for the new season. And I'll probably start the production on season 2, probably towards the summer. So I'm going to take a little bit of time. I'll probably take a little bit of time. I might do an in-between project,
that's what you were saying. You were thinking of doing maybe a small project in between, kind of like a palette cleanser a little bit, and then get back to it.
It might be that, or it might be, yeah, it might be like an in between story. You know, I always quite like the idea of these issue zeros, where it's like they do something always surprise you. And because we talked about style before, and you talked about the ink style, and I always wondered, should I do a zero, and you know, it's set a bit before Blam and Glam, and do something a bit different with that. And I've sort of got an idea what that could be. But yeah, that might be the in between piece, you know. And if I do it as inks, I might even draw it on board, because I know there's people out there who want to start collecting.
Yeah, you could sell. Yeah, you could sell every page of the comic that way.
Yeah,
yeah. Our boy
like as original art. Yeah,
yeah. I just don't know if I need to experiment with the style a bit more to see if I've got the feel for it. Do you know what I mean? So I think I'll you know, it might even be it's like an 8-pager or something. I don't know, you know, or a 12-pager. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Jonathan's also asking, did you think of like a deluxe edition hardcover? And I think the last time you were on, we had mentioned that a little bit, and you were toying with the idea once the story's complete.
I mean, I'd love to do an oversized one. I'd love to do it's almost like A3 size, so you really get up close to the print. You know, when you've seen it, when people have had the print of the pages when they're paid to be in the comic.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of which, I'll get something down. Yeah.
But when I looked into it, it's really expensive. Like, even the production on it, unless you go into thousands and thousands of copies, they want like £100 an issue just to print it. And I'm like, I can't do that, you know.
Also, I would say, like, wait till you shift almost all your issues before you do trades, man. That's what a lot of people in the space tell me, man. Like, trade seems like a great idea, but then you just end up with all the issues, man, left over.
Yeah,
like something cool, like
all the boxes. Yes,
Dell put these out a little while back, where they did the issue #1 of King Jaw. Just did like an artist edition, they call these.
Yeah.
You know, where it's production size, right? It's 1117 pages. So it's like you get the book in production size. And when I ordered the original comic, for some reason it got shorted or something, so I didn't get any. So when this came out, I ordered that. So I got my issue of King Jorah. It's black and white. But it's like the what they call the artist edition. So and that's pretty cool. Like you said, they're expensive. Like this one was came in at 40 Canadian.
Yeah, and it's because
I mean, it's huge, right? So
yeah, I mean, it's like if you do full bleed on those pages, you know, they've got to go bigger than the page you're printing. You know, just to trim it. So, but I suppose if you're a standard, you know, the way that people always have a border on those, if you do that, then that's one way to ensure you don't have to go even bigger than the format you got. But yeah, I'm toying with it at the moment.
What would be neat, like if you ever get the chance, man, is that production PDF you sent us of issue 7 of Blam and Glam. That would be amazing to see in print. I love that PDF. Yeah, dude, I love production stuff like that, and like it would be neat for some of your fans to get a little more of that from you from behind the scenes, because like seeing your rough work, it's glorious, man. I almost like it better than the actual finished version.
Well, it's like when I've got to be careful in case there's people watching who haven't seen the comic, but like early versions of 6. So every time I do something, I get it test printed halfway through, and they're rough, and so. Like, you know, this is an early version of that spread, and it's so rough. You know, there's no detail in it. There's hardly anything going on. And then, but I just want to see what the colors are like. You know, and it's just seeing tonally if I have to adjust anything. Like that one this was when I was laying them out. I mean, you can see how chunky the pencil stuff is. When I say pencil, I was still doing it, like working out the lines in paint, on you know, even this one, it had like a double page where it was just the roughs. But now what I'm doing with the roughs is, instead of it doing as black and white, I'm now doing the roughs as basic tones. And and it means I can get to the page quicker. So on the Kickstarter is, and I think you've got one of the pages already, which is the one of her. She's heads down here. You know, she's laying on the back first page of issue 8, and that I got to the feel of that very quickly, and then did a bit more detail on top of it, and I think that might help speed up the process. But yeah, I love seeing behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
You know, especially like one of my favorite books is
some great stuff. Like I got this Hellboy artist edition as well. I got this a while back, and you see all the bleeds and everything, like you were saying. It's fantastic, and the inks, like they didn't play with the contrast and stuff, so you see. Like the inks aren't black. Like you see where there's the overlaps from the inks and stuff, and it's really cool to see, you know. And you see the blue line pencil if there is some. I love it. These things are really fun. Yeah.
This is one of my favorite purchases, and it's Watching the Watchmen, right? And on the cover, they're brave enough to put the really quick marker scan, and then on the back they show you the black and white. You know, and when you go through the pages of this, you know there are pencil sketch things going on. But what's really cool is when you start seeing them work out the pages, you know, there's all these low res roughs where they're working out how it's going to go. And I just eat up stuff like that, because that tells me what I'm doing is kind of working. Do you know what I mean? It's not like they lay something perfect down straight away.
And now that we're on this subject, I think it's a perfect segue to get into a little something I asked you to send a list of like creators that inspired you, works that inspired you. Like so we're gonna dig into, because this is like your first comic series. So we're gonna dig into a little bit, break it down. Like, what does Blam and Glam consist of? What were its inspirations? What led to this? What creatively drove you? Like the style, the type of thing you're going for. So we're going to break it down, kind of like do like the DNA of Blam and Glam. So you sent us a list. We broke down. We got images. So we're going to like really get into the nitty gritty of seeing as how it's wrapping up. Issue 8. The first arc is done. So let's do almost like you know, your top 10 or whatever you want to call it. Like not even a top 10, but you know, like because I know you enjoy video games. You enjoy a lot of Japanese cultured stuff as well. You gave on the list. There's a lot of Japanese artists and creators on there. You have a legend in comics as well. You have Bill Sienkiewicz is in there as well. You have a bunch of stuff in there. So I mean, we'll let's get into it. We'll let you, because I was asking you, like, your first comic, what inspired you to create this, and like what drove you to create this, and just, you know,
this
made
story.
you want to do it. This story, yeah. So you sent us a list of all the things that kind of really deep rooted you into this Blam and Glam, you know. So yeah, so we'll get into it. And did you want to just name them off and Johnny will throw the pictures up, or Johnny, do you have the pictures preloaded in a certain order?
I have them, but like I got them labeled, so anybody who wants to mention, I could pull up right away.
Yeah.
I mean,
all right.
The biggest influence, because when I first started out in 91, 92, I was trying to do comics then. I was reading X-Men, and my big thing was Jim Lee. But then I had this break, and I just couldn't do it. I just left it. And it wasn't until Metal Gear Solid, you know, Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Solid games came out, which was just, you know, this is Yoji Shankawa's artwork on that cover. You know, there's the man himself. This art is just, that's what inspired me. And you had this on the cover of the game, and an amazing art book I've still got in here from 2000 and from 98. And his artwork just had an energy, a thing to it that wasn't like trying to be precise. It had this amazing feel to it, and you could feel the characters, and that inspired me. And I loved those games. I was into the games, and the games was all CGI, but it was live. it wasn't like Final Fantasy on the PlayStation where it was all pre-rendered full motion cutscenes, and then you into the gameplay. The gameplay and the cutscenes were the same engine, but then later, and I didn't know about this, which is Ashley Wood when he did Metal Gear Solid. I didn't know about this version of the comic at the time. I'd never seen it, but I was playing Metal Gear Portable Ops on the PSP, and the cutscenes were Ashley Wood's, which artwork, which felt like Yoji Shankara's. And they had that same theme. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then all of a sudden I start seeing Ashley Wood, who's got amazing style of their own. Then did, they've got the Metal Gear Solid comics, and they did 1 and 2. This is the collect edition of 1. And he'll go between pencil sketch, like ink sketches really fastly done, to paintings. And if you and some of the covers he did, like that's the cover of this one here. Sorry, this one here is the cover of issue 2, and it's just amazing. I was like, wow, this person is doing this. So that was a massive inspiration. And then I didn't know much about the other artist influence, which was Bill Sienkiewicz. I didn't read Mutants, the New Mutants when Bill was doing it. I read it more later when it was
Liefeld.
Yeah, Liefeld. Yeah, exactly. Because that's when I came into those comics. But the first time I saw Bill's work and realized what I was seeing, it was quite recent. It was about 2 or 3 years before lockdown. And my friend who I used to work with said, hey, we're going to go to the comic shop up London. We'll meet up, we'll have a beer afterwards, go to the comic shop. And I saw on the wall was, just going to see if I can find it. No, I can't find it. I've usually got it to hand here. On the wall was Electra Assassin number 6, issue 6, and that was the mini series he did under the Marvel Epic series. And I went, I've got to have that cover, right? And then when I opened it up inside and realized the art is the same inside as well. It's a beautifully painted cover, and he had that beautiful painted style throughout. I had to get the whole series, and then I started looking into everything Bill was doing, and it was just insane. So they both had a real inspiration on me. I think the biggest inspiration is to say you can do it your own way. You don't have to do. I tried to be a Jim Lee and I failed. I can't do that. I do this my way. And it was the same. I talked about it before. The same friend, Adam Buxton. And when I was telling him I was going from this to then do a comic, and I said I just can't get the ink style right. He's the one who said, what are you talking about? Do it in your painted style, because I was doing paintings then. And I went, that could work. And then that's it. We've just been great guns.
People love the hand painted comics, man. Like it's such a great look. I mean, John Bolton, Ashley Wood, like a lot of people that do hand painted comics are kind of multimedia type people, but like the people that just straight paint too. I mean, it's a good look, man. It's very iconic. It definitely draws an eye to your work, especially if you're as good at it as like you are.
And I feel like mine's too rushed. Like there's certain pages in certain issues, and I'd be like, I just want to go back and redo them, like paint over, not finish, but paint back over them and finish some of the details. But then some of it is you need to be able to have an energy moving through something and then stop on the detail and then go again. But yeah, there was somebody whose work I didn't know about until recently. Is a guy, an English artist who actually died recently. I think it was just for Christmas. John Byrne. Oh, yeah. His painted stuff is amazing. And I was talking to my local, the guy, John, who runs my local comic book shop. And he's like, hey, you'd love John Byrne stuff, and he showed me a bunch, and I was like, this is amazing. And then also I had to say to him, I heard he's passed away recently, which was just crazy. But the stuff, that he does is just amazing. It was so cool. So seeing people do this stuff just inspires me on the comic art style. Means I can do what I want to do. I can actually make it happen. I can actually get a comic out. But the Kojima side of things, Hideo Kojima, the Metal Gear Solid, the game aspect is taking it beyond that, beyond it being just the medium you're in. You know, he'll create a game, and there's certain elements he adds to the game that break you out of the dimension, which is just amazing. Like one of the best ones, and I remember, hopefully not a spoiler for anyone who hasn't played Metal Gear Solid 1, but there's a part in the game where everyone got stuck for 2 days playing this game. And they've told, the character says the code for the codec, so you can call someone who's going to open a door for you, is on the back of the CD case. So you spend 2 days looking for a CD case in the game. And then if you actually turn your CD case over that has the game on it, the codec frequency is on the back. And it was break out of the game world into the physical world to make that jump. And you go, oh, it's so small, but there's something quite fun about that. You know, and Kojima does it loads. He does loads of stuff like that. But
yeah, wasn't there another one where like you had to take your controller out of port 1 and put
it in port 2?
Yeah, it does stuff like that.
Because Psycho Mantis could read. Psycho Mantis could tell you what games you're playing just because he's reading the memory card, and then he could also make your controller move. You know, it was all that sort of stuff that was, it was so good. Yeah. So there's that sort of inspiration. I can't remember who else we had on the list. There's loads I would have reeled off.
You had Mr. Clement.
Oh yeah, I mean, the stuff he was writing for X-Men. I came into it early 90s, I think it was, and I immediately had to start reading backwards because I was like, Christ, this stuff is so. And it wasn't just one comic; it was across all 4 or at the time all 3 X-Men titles. It was X Factor, Uncanny X-Men, and New Mutants. Wolverine was happening, but he wasn't doing that. Johnny Harmer was doing that, I think. But across those 3, that then become 4, it then become X-Men, Unlimited X-Men, X Factor, and X-Force. And I was like, but going backwards, all this stuff that he'd been layering in was just amazing. I didn't know how he could keep all this stuff in his head, you know. And then when he went, it all just went out the window. You know, all the questions we wanted answers were just, you know, they never got answered.
He wrote X-Men from the 70s all the way to the 90s, I think, right?
It's crazy. It's, you know, and I think
two full decades.
I mean, you know, up until he was doing it, was it still quite like more like an episode bad guy of the week type thing? Or was there enough layered stuff before Claremont got involved? I've not read past that, but I always got the impression that he then created this whole everything's interconnected, you know, and stuff that would be quite subtle here would then play up later and then become more important.
They had a touch of that before with the events. They had like Inferno and like Fall of the Mutants and a couple other like key happen where, but like I think he was one of the first guys that tried to be like the mastermind of the universe and try to make everything like one continuity. I think like he kind of.
Yeah. But it was a little easier back then because you only had 4 X titles or 3. You didn't have like a dozen, right? Of like.
Yeah,
so it was a little more. It was a little easier to keep up and keep track of, and financially easier to read the whole story as well. You know, now you have like 8 to 12 X titles where they're fucking stories running throughout all of them, and it's
even back then they had more than the ones that he was writing. Man, they had Excalibur. They had what was the other one?
Yeah, but Excalibur wasn't. It wasn't as connected to like your major X books were New Mutants, Uncanny X-Men, and X Factor. Those are your 3 mains, right?
And then you hit
92, right?
91, mid 91, and then also become X-Men being the new thing, the Jim Lee one. Uncanny kept going. New Mutants become X-Force, and then you still had X Factor. But you had Wolverine as well running, and I remember the big one before, as far as I'm concerned, it all went tits up. The big one, which was it was the whole story around Magneto, and I think it was 93, with the whole pulling the metal out of Wolverine, That was how it, but that whole story across the 5 was amazing.
That led into the Onslaught and all that, the right Age of Apocalypse, and then Onslaught and all that stuff.
Not
like
really.
right before it went. Right, wasn't Onslaught introduced when Wolverine lost his
No.
When he lost
his medal? I thought that's when he was introduced.
That's when Colossus became a bad guy and the Acolytes became like the big villains and the Executioner song happened. Like the Onslaught didn't happen. Like that was when they got Jim Lee and Liefeld back from Image for a little while.
Okay.
Oh, for Heroes Reborn, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's
Wolverine was missing a hand.
Yeah.
Right? He had the nub for a while. He only Wolverine was only one-fisted for a while. He had the nub on the other side. Yeah.
Because I stopped reading those when they did. Like, I wasn't a fan when the art started changing. They struggled when everyone went to Image. They struggled for a while. Like, I loved the work that Greg Capullo,
yeah.
The stuff
on
he was
X-Force,
doing with X-Force was amazing. And X-Force 25
it was really good.
is one of my favorite issues. But then shortly after, they did the Phalanx thing and everything just turned wobbly. They started really digitally coloring with people who had no idea what they were doing. The digital colors were awful.
They kind of had that problem with even the earlier me and Joe, we were looking at the we got that Peter David X Factor omnibus, and we were looking through it, and some of the coloring in that was just atrocious, and I didn't remember it being bad. I thought that that was the glory days, and I think Marvel even the X books, they kind of always had a bit of a trouble with the coloring, man. I don't know how hard blue is for them over there, but they seem to struggle with it quite a bit on the X books back in the 90s, man.
Yeah, I think they were doing airbrushing in Photoshop and stuff like that, and it just didn't have the right feel. They weren't really playing with the color medium very well, I thought. And I came out of it, it was a shame. But now it's way complicated. But you talked about Hellfire, Inferno. I love those issues, and so much so, she's my favorite. And this isn't Inferno. This is recently the Hellions.
That was a good run. I like that run.
And I just, in the end, I was like, I'm smitten with this cover. She's my favorite X-person. And I know she's not an X-person. She's a baddie. But, I was like,
It looks a lot like your colors on there, too. Similar to your coloring style.
I mean, that is, I should really know.
Alex Horley? Kind of looks like Alex Horley.
No, it's, I'll kick myself because I'll know the name once I read it on the back. Mike Mayhew. And actually, is this a Mike Mayhew? I should really know. Yeah, that's a Mike Mayhew as well. That's my first ever slab.
Oh.
And even that I only got recently. I just love that one. I've never read it. I've never read She-Hulk. But I just love that cover, and the minute I saw that, I went, I'm going to buy that.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, who else did we have? I can't remember.
You had the best anime movie ever on your list.
Ghost in the Shell, exactly. There's so much in Ghost in the Shell that I was so disappointed with the live action movie because they took some of it and then they clumsily put some other stuff with it. It was half good and half a mess. But whereas Ghost in the Shell, the anime, had that amazing, where you just live the world. There's a part where the bus goes by. There's a part where things are floating down the river. You're seeing stuff, and you just live that world. It doesn't have to be all about the action and all about the dialogue. And that's what I loved about it, was you had this amazing sequences, and then you just immerse yourself. And that's something that I wish I could do with Blam and Glam, but I don't have the pages for it. I think you need to do it'll either be a breakaway issue, or if anyone ever made an anime, I'd love them for it, because they could take an issue and expand it out in 30 minutes. The issue would probably only make 10 minutes. So they would then have a chance to really expand out the time, the stuff that happens, and have moments to pause and take in what's happening in this world, stuff we only glimpse in the comic.
And another like the second greatest anime film, which is also on your list, is also great for having sequences like that. Probably better than Ghost in the Shell, man. I think that half of the reason that Akira is amazing as it is because of just the establishing shots and the way they're animated, the way the city looks and shines and just glimmers. It's just one of the beautiful things.
And with that, it's the music as well. The music, and I remember watching the making of stuff that they had it on. We have the BBC over here. I mean, we had millions of channels now, but the BBC was the big thing. I had it on BBC Two one day, and again, here's this amazing animation. I couldn't wait to see it. And they said, we're going to get in traditional Japanese instruments, orchestra playing the music. And you go, does that work with a future sci-fi? And fuck me, does it? It really does. When they're doing the bike chase, that's not the music you expect for the bike chase, but it's so much better the way they did it. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. When there's stuff, you got all this traditional stuff happening, and yet this, crazy bikes, clown people, clown gang, whatever they're called, that everything's whizzing by. It's just amazing. Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
But of course, the thing is, I've never read the Akira.
Have you not? Oh
no,
my god!
And everyone's like, you've got to read it. And I need to, but the thing is, I need to make room to get it. Yeah, exactly. You've got them all.
The best thing about it is
they're different, aren't they? They're completely different.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about the movie being spoiled at all. The movie spoiling anything. They're completely different things. Like, it has the same characters and they're drawn the same, but like even they're not the same. Like, Kaneda is like way stupider and way more useless in the comic. Where they made him the hero in the movie, which is a weird choice when you read the comic. Like, if you were to go from one and go into the film not knowing that the film never existed, you'd be like, why did they pick him to be the hero? But it works so good in contrast.
And like you were mentioning before, those quiet moments, like between, like what you're saying, like you'd like to have in Blam And Glam, those quiet moments in between the panels, like to establish a feel for the scene, and then like that quiet before all the chaos happens, right? And like the series, Akira, the series has a bunch of those kind of panels and lays out and splash pages of the environment, of the cityscape. It's amazing. It's breathtaking. Even it's it's a work. It's a work of art. I mean,
because I can already see how I would now use bits like that in season 2, right? Mm-hmm. And I can't spoil it, but did you guys ever see the Battlestar Galactica remake series?
Yeah, the one that was on Sci-Fi Channel, or over here was on Sci-Fi.
So I absolutely love that series, right? I was just smitten with it, and I remember I bought the pilot, which was like one disc. You watch this episode, and I liked the pilot, but I didn't think it was great. And my friend said, "You've got to get into the full series," and he lent me the first season, and what was amazing was you end the pilot thinking everything's fine and we're flying off and everything's great. And then you do the first episode of season 1, the first proper season, and it's 58 minutes or something like that. And they have to jump every so many minutes because the Cylons keep descending on them and they can't work out why. And they're all completely shot to shit. But if you imagine you ended that season and you thought you'd be in a high, and then all of a sudden you'd be into this, you're back on the the pedal. And I think I need to play with the quiet bit, and then, as you say, the chaos then descends. And I can already see something that would be in issue 9, which is season 2, issue 1, really, which could play to that, But yeah.
I got a manga you probably really like. Actually, a creator that I don't know if you're aware of him, Tsutomu Nihei. He did Blam, or it's spelled Blame. His most known work is he did Wolverine Schnicked, that just recently got re-released.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
he's really amazing, and I think you'd like his cityscapes. I think his type of art.
He's good too. It's fun. And
But
it's still easy to get a lot of his work too. It's not like some of the manga out there that's been out of print for a while. I think Blam is easy to find.
and it's all available in oversized editions, which is really cool, which you don't get too often in manga. So, but
yeah, see, I'd love that. It's like there's books I've got in tubs at the moment because one of my shelves collapsed.
There's that Wolverine one that just came out that we covered on the show too. That's really good. You'd probably enjoy that one.
And Wolverine Schnicked, it just got re-released 2 months ago.
And you say it's by the same guy?
3 months ago, yeah.
He did that, and he did like a Halo graphic novel, and I think those are the only American comics he's done.
And there's so I didn't put it in as a big influence, but Dan Dare is a big influence on me, but from the 50s. So I have the 50s up to the 70s collection. They're like A3 over because Eagle was A3 size when in the 50s into 70s, and it was massive, and it was always be the front and back cover was Dan Dare.
Because Eagle became 2000 AD after, right?
Well, they had Eagle up to the 70s, and then all of a sudden they just stopped. They'd lost interest, and then somebody else. I don't know if it happened at the same time. But 2000 AD started, which of course had Judge Dredd and Road Trooper.
Because I have a Judge Dredd issue that has both Eagle and 2000 AD on the.
Yeah, I have a bunch of American Judge Dredd comics that were put out by Eagle Comics. I have.
Yeah. So there's a crossover because at one point Eagle died, and it was 2000 AD was either getting started or it's in its heyday, and they stopped doing Eagle, and then Dan Dare would be. I think Dave Gibbons was drawing Dan Dare in 2000 AD. Completely different. It wasn't nothing like the original series. And then they stopped doing that. And then all of a sudden in the 80s, but around about 81, 82, Eagle relaunched. And they did an amazing series with Pat Mills, who wrote it, with Ian Kennedy on art. And that was phenomenal. And it was Dan Dare was the great-great-grandson. And then they did, so you followed the adventures, so it was a bit more up to date because of that, a bit more future space. But the 50s stuff was amazing because it was set in 96. Bear in mind, it was written in 1950, it was set in 1996. Sort of time. And there's one series, I think it's the 5th series of comics, where the main characters have to go off to another planet. They help somebody out on another planet. And it turns out that, unfortunately, to get him to go and help them, he had to lie about the technology he had. It wouldn't be there instantaneously. They would arrive 10 years later. So when they finally come back to Earth, everything's gone to shit. And London is overgrown. The trains are, the Meccans invade and all sorts of stuff. And that sort of stuff I always think is the really cool stuff to explore. What happens when the world goes to... So Blam and Glam is the world goes to shit. But we're still early. It's only like up to a year after that pandemonic, which is, same timeline as that pandemic, really starts. So I think season 2 can explore the world cracking, because you're still dealing with that, which could be quite cool.
Also on your list, continuing with the cyberpunk theme, we got Ed Harris being creepy.
Yeah, Westworld season 1 is I think one of the best. It's probably the best TV program I've ever seen. Season 1 is purely about layering, right? And anyone who's seen it, by the time you get season 1, you realize what they've been doing to you. And they've been fucking with your brains. That's what's really good about it. But they layer it from the get-go. I think I said it before. You have somebody on the train, Teddy, and and somebody's talking to Dolores, and later on you realize what that conversation with Dolores really is. But at the time, the makers are interviewing the machines just to make sure they're not going haywire. And they say, tell us about the outsiders or the visitors or there's a certain name for it. and they cut to Teddy on a train, and you go, so your brain goes, he's me, come to visit the park. He's one of these.
Yeah.
He's the guest. And then they pull that rug out from under you halfway through the episode when he dies and he's a machine. And that layering all the way to the end of the season is just genius. And I've tried to put in like the layering into Blam and Glam, so that I get it a lot. People go, the new issue comes out, they have to reread all the previous issues. And I remember there was one guy a couple of years ago when I was doing covers for a guy in Canada. He wanted to do the whole series of Blam and Glam, but with his cover on, and he sells them. And it's quite cool. We'll try it. We stopped after 2 issues because it wasn't selling for him. But and I remember him saying, I think you need to rethink what you're doing. And I was like, I totally respect your opinion, but I know what I'm doing. I know what I want to achieve. Whether it works or not is another thing. And so I was purposely, I mean, you guys know, when you read Blam and Glam, the first 3 pages are one thing. And then the rest of the pages are something else. And as you gradually piece it together, you start to realize if you took a pair of scissors and started cutting up certain pages, you could put them in different orders to make the story then work. And you realize we're revealing certain things again. Like my favorite is still, and it's the one that will fuck with people's brains. They'll go, it's a mistake. And the first 3 pages of issue 2 do one thing, and then pages 4, 5, and 6, you're like, no, that can't be right because we've just seen this. And you realize, oh no, hang on a minute. I'm thinking this is logic. This is logical. This is in order. And that's what I want to do. I want people to go back and find the hidden things, find the things that we were laying the seeds for, But nowhere near as good as Westworld does it. I thought that was brilliant.
That messed with my brain though, man. When I watched that jury duty show, and when James Marsden showed up as himself, I kept expecting him to die off, come back the next episode alive again, man. Like I don't know why. I just like I don't think I'm ever gonna see Cyclops again and not expect him to just die and come back. He was basically
yeah. I know. That proper messes with your brain, doesn't it, when they do that?
But that was good though. You're right. Like they reeled you in, and you thought that he was going to be the protagonist, that he was gonna, and then like what was it? 8 minutes into the episode, Ed Harris blows his back out,
and you're like, what? Just and then my brain's going, because I hadn't twigged at that point. My brain's going, this is Westworld the movie, and they've just, instead of it happening 30 minutes into the film, they've done it in 8 minutes. And this guy is going to be the crazy robot. And it's like, no, it's not that at all. It's completely different, and yeah, I was just amazed by it.
And the musical cues were really fun too. I like that they played like contemporary song on the old Western piano. I thought that was a neat gimmick when they did that with Black Hole Sun. I think in the second episode, this is dope right here.
Black Hole Sun, and then the Rolling Stones one. Is it Rolling Stones?
Yeah, it was. Give Me Shelter, right?
I mean, I'm no good with the titles. All I know is the lyrics leading up to it. I see a little silhouette of a man.
That's Queen.
That's Queen.
Sounds like something else.
Yeah,
the one. But it's when the gang of cowboys come in to rob the casino.
It's been a while since I've watched that. I never watched the following seasons though.
Well, season 2's good, and it does a really cool premise. And when you start to see how it layers, I just think you 1 was brilliant, and then when you get to 3 and beyond, I got to 4 and halfway through 4 or something, and I just went, no, I'm out.
There's 4 seasons. I thought there was just 3.
No, I'm sure it was 4, and I'm sure I got probably 4 episodes into season 4, and I went, no, because for me it's Westworld, right? And this was something else by then, and I was like, no, I'm out. I'm really sorry. I'm out. But yeah, what else did we have? I can't remember.
Last you had a little bit of Brian
Oh,
K. Vaughan writing. Not his best work in my opinion, but I mean it's this show had some okay characters. A lot of the rest, like I kind of wish would have died sooner. But yeah,
the thing, because I enjoyed 1 to 4, even though 4 was in the middle of the writer's strike and they cut a load of stuff out because they were panicking. I enjoyed 1 to 4, and then 5 was okay, and 6 was just like, no, you've just killed, you just ruined it. But I would love, the things I love about Lost is again the layering. So you would do. The problem was sometimes the layering was a bit clumsy, but what they would do, each episode was someone's story. So when it flashed back, you would experience that, and then they get to the end of season 3. Am I spoiling this? I don't know if I.
no, man.
I mean, the show's been out long enough. If you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
They get to the end of season 3, and then they do something. Your brain goes, "This is supposed to be a flash," because they always do the sound, and you go, "Right, I'm traveling back in time now," and it was always that noise, and you go, "And I'm here, right?" And you go, "Hang a minute, Kate knew Matthew Fox Jack all along," and your brain goes, that's not right, because they didn't know each other. And then you realize they haven't gone back, they go forwards, and that's what they do in 4. They don't flash back anymore, they flash forwards. And it was clever because they changed then what you were expecting, and you really had to remember where you were with different things, and you could keep track of it. And I thought that was really clever, is that again they get you thinking a certain way, and then they pull the rug from out of you. And there was so, it was I still remember J.J. Abrams' talk on TED Talks. If you get if you've not seen it, watch it. The J.J. Abrams TED Talks is brilliant, and he talks about how this island is a mystery box, and you're unpacking it, you're opening it, you're seeing the way they want to go with it, but your brain's also going, how crazy is this? What does that mean? What does this mean? And that's what I love, is people fill in stuff themselves.
Yeah, that was that show. People love that show, though. I mean, that was like at the time. I think that was one of the bigger shows running when it was actually airing.
That was one of the first shows that I saw people actually did that, though. Like almost the same thing with the Game of Thrones. When they got to that ending, though, they kind of really snapped hard on the show, which I didn't think was warranted. I mean, like it was a predictable ending for the show, but I didn't think it was horrible.
Yeah. But they spend the whole time saying since season 1 it's not the afterlife, and it's not. Season 6, instead of being flash back and flash forward, flash to a different life, which was okay. But I remember I was watching the English version of Life on Mars and then Ashes to Ashes, right? And and Life on Mars ended on the Sunday night in the UK in a similar space, and they did it brilliantly. And then when you then watch the next day, when on Sky, and it was in America at the same time, the season finale of All of Lost, and you were like, "No, they did it better, mate."
You got wound up.
Your old news. You've done a gamble and it was wrong, but yeah, crazy.
I think that is there anything else, Johnny, on that list?
No, that's all the DNA.
I think that's that. Yeah. So those are all things you could go check out that help inspire this series, this comic of Blam and Glam from Richard. And man, gotta say, I'm a big fan of pretty much everything on that list. So
I do have a question though, man. Like, if you got to work on a project with Hideo Kojima, what kind of project would you like to work with him on? Would you like to do box art, or have you ever thought about something like that?
If you ever did cutscene art like Ashley Wood again, do you know what I mean? I think that time has gone. I don't think he'd do that. I'd love to do that. I mean, I'd love to write something with him, and I love interactive. I'd love it to be a game. I mean, I met him and Yoji Shankar. I met him briefly in London, years ago, and I wish I could speak Japanese because I would have loved. You can't stop and have a conversation because they're just signing things. But I would love to have had a conversation. But no, I mean, I'd love to have done something with Metal Gear, but now it's just in Konami's hands. It's not in his hands. And you know, there's different reasons. You know, Death Stranding and Death Stranding 2, I can't wait for. You know, Death Stranding is, and you know, I've got a PlayStation 4 with Death Stranding on, and I love it. And over there, I've got the giant box set with the baby in it. You know, the full size baby replica, BB. I've just seen you can get director's cut for your iPad Pro, and I'm tempted to buy it and a controller. I just don't know. You know, the problem is I'd be playing it on the train and not doing the comics, so I need to be careful. I got to deliver the comic. I'd love to do a game, but yeah.
And
But,
I got one more question. Is it just me, or in this classic picture by Bill Sinkovich, does it look like Wolverine just got tagged in the nuts, man, and he's just yelling?
Either that, or he was trying to do up his zipper. And,
and he couldn't retract his claws, right? So it's a pretty touchy situation. But it'll grow back. It'll grow back if he schnitz it, you know. Gives it a little.
What I'd like to know, Wolverine, is what's the point at which something won't grow back?
Good call.
You know, like if you cut his head off, is that it? Game over, or is it two Wolverines will appear? You know,
the way it's been broken down is like supposedly if you cut his head off, it's supposed to kill him, but like it's never been tested out as far as I know. Like.
Or will it be like in the Deadpool movies? Will he have a little baby body growing from his head, you know? You'll have like a bobblehead Wolverine running around, you know?
You have a Wolverine that size.
But then he won't have the adamantium though anymore in his skeleton, right? Because that's not part of him. That was added on to him. So he'd just have the super heavy head, right? Like he'd be head heavy.
See, this is the thing. When I come back to the comics I was reading of X-Men, the minute Magneto pulled the adamantium out of him, that's it. You know, I remember Wolverine was just bones, you know, and he was fighting all sorts of people with just bones. And I was like, that's when I stopped. You know, after that I don't need to do anymore. You know, it's all different now, you know, because of whatever timelines and whatever things are going on.
Yeah, because how is he supposed to fight when he's just bones? He doesn't have any more muscle or tendons to make everything move, and
he's still got his healing factor.
Yeah, once the muscles heal back. But there's so many shots where you see Wolverine where he's almost a skeleton and he's still fighting. Like, you know, like I mean, it takes muscles and tendons connecting to be able to articulate. You know, like so. It makes for fucking cool visuals, but so not, you know, you know. So
I mean, that's amazing. But there's one thing I didn't put on the list, which we reviewed before, and actually now it's quite relevant to what we're doing, and that's Robert Samalin's work with Daniel Friedman on Kali. You know, and I think before I read this, I'd seen Pat O'Malley's
Pop Scars.
The Robert Samalin one, which I ordered. You know, I was like, this is just amazing. And you know, we've reviewed this book, and this book's amazing. You know, and
it's good.
And when I saw these two, I was like, and Robert was like, okay, he's interested in help, you know, in working on the project. You know, doing a cover. So we've got my standard covers, my red covers, and then Bang Bez's yellow covers. But we then said, okay, Robert, are you in for the finale? Would you like to do one? And he said, yeah. And so he said, what sort of thing? And I said, well, I love your CGI style you've done. You know, and it's not to be confused with all this AI nonsense that's going on at the moment. He properly models these in 3D. I've seen the the behind the scenes stuff for the one he's done for mine. So he's done his version, but the pink cover of, and he said, "What's the sort of pose?" And I said, "I quite like the way you have this theme of they've got their back to you." And so he's done that with the Blam and Glam pink cover.
Yeah.
Have you guys got that? I can't remember if I sent that.
Word. Yeah. Oop.
Yeah. And so I was like, I'd love it to, follow that. And, we had a couple of different clothes options one. And I said, let's go with this one. And then we've got a new version as well, which doesn't have the Blam and Glam logo on, but it has got a big plus behind it, which I think is quite a nice visual.
This is your first time doing a pink one, right? Because you kind of slowly added. You always had the regular and the red, and then it was around issue 4 when you started doing yellow.
Yeah, it was 4. So Bang Bears has done. No, he's is it 4? I should know, shouldn't I?
4 or 5. Around 4 or 5 is when I started seeing the yellow covers.
Yeah, so you're right. It was 4, 5, 6, 7, and now he's done a yellow for 8, which looks really cool as well. I think his one's the best seller at the moment. I think in issue 7, my red was the best selling variant, and it's now the yellow is the best selling variant on 8, followed by Robert Somalian's pink cover. It's funny, the red, I talked about things that are like foreshadowing. So there's all the nude versions. The red, people just thought they're just red covers. I do, so you can tell it's a variant, but the red means something. And by the time you get to issue 5 and 6, you start to realize what the red means. And it's probably still so. I don't know if people are picking up, but that connects with those events that are now happening. So much so that issue 8 is predominantly red, which is quite, because I think that there's an intensity, there's an energy to that. But also, it helps like the figures. Look, exactly. You've got that figure there, which is the that's actually in a box up here, ready to be shipped out. So I was going to pull it one, but it's based on that third figure. But that one you just showed was a certain paint job of that figure, and it's like a half.
Yeah, her hair is half black, half white. She got the Cruella de Vil going on, kind of.
Yeah. That's the one you painted that one yourself, right?
Yeah. So that one is the person who bought my versions of these figures. He was the first to snap up that one. The minute he saw that one, he just went, "I want that." I want that. But over on the easel, we've got one of the paintings I'm working on, which is going to be used in an upcoming part of the project. I just haven't decided or shared what it's going to be yet.
Oh, I've been seeing this one on Instagram. Yeah, this one's hot.
Yeah, and it's I was quite pleased how that came out. I don't know if I'm going to correct the leg yet. I don't know if it's just a bit too long, so I might have to bring the knee here. I'm not decided yet. But yeah, that's quite cool. But I'd like to, and that's the digital version. It's funny, the guy who's bought this painting also likes the digital rough, and I said, "That's great. I'll get you an A3 print of the digital because it's done to a high enough res anyway." And that way, he's got the concept, and then he's got the final piece. But I'd love to get a load of my covers slabbed. I think that's what I'm going to plan to do this time. But yeah, that one you showed just then was the A4 def. I think it's the def print, which is something I'd done ages ago. This is actually quite an old piece. It was actually a couple of years old. So when I was doing art on Instagram, before I was doing the comic, there's certain pieces of art that I've used. A lot of it's in there's a lot in the sketchbook, and people are still buying the sketchbook. There's 9 of these have been sold in the new issue, which is amazing because it gets up. But when you look at the stuff in there, I don't know if you guys have seen the sketchbook, but you see the early genesis of some of the characters and some of the designs and scenes, but it's completely different. You can see how it's grown, which is crazy.
That's the neat stuff, though, man. That's the shit that I'd live for, man. Like, it's very rare, but like when you get to find certain books where you see an artist learn their voice and find their style, that's one of the coolest things ever. Like I don't know, you like Paul Pope? If you ever seen his book THB, you literally see him become Paul Pope drawing that book, and like he wants to redraw it and recolor it and re-release it. I'm like, don't do that, dude. Put out the beautiful issues where we learned you. We saw you learn how to be Paul Pope. That's why that book's magical. You know what I mean? But whatever, he's a genius. He can do what he wants. But
I think you're right. There's a it's like Star Wars. You know, George, don't fuck with Star Wars, and he did. You know, there's so much of it. I go, just don't touch it. You know, because it was pretty perfect when we were kids watching it.
Yeah.
But then there's things like issue 2. There's art I really want to go in and correct, and some of it isn't just like painting over some of the panels. Some of it is I want to lighten it. Because it did I think printed a little too dark, but then maybe that adds character because the second issue is actually quite a dark issue, so I don't know if it adds something to it. But you're right, you see your art grow over the time. You know, when I look at how it's changing, how it's improving, you know, I think it's quite cool to see that. That's why Instagram is quite good, because I can go back through my feed and see the early stuff and go, God, that was shit. You know, but you see you improve on it, and you know, yeah. And then I'll probably in a couple of years' time go, the stuff I'm doing now, shit. We'll see.
When you're doing Blam And Glam Volume 4 at Image, you know what I mean? Like having to meet with the man Robert Kirkman himself, you know, doing lunches with Kirky, you know.
It's not gonna happen. It'd be like, who are you? I'll be like, I don't know, but do you need a lift to an airport? You know, but that just, you know, that won't work.
So we're about an hour in, and you said you had an announcement, right? Did you want to get to that?
Yeah. So on the page we've just done. I like to update the stretch rewards. I've actually updated one of them ahead of, you know, we're on 3, 4, 7 backers, which is amazing. You know, I'm just going to load up Kickstarter 7. I just want to see the number of backers we got to on that, because I think we're already past that. Yeah, 338 backers.
338, yeah.
7. We're on 347. So I've just unlocked. So halfway down the page is where you get the stretch goals. So I've just, you know, we're only 3 people off of 350 backers. So I've just said that's unlocked. But there's 3 immediately below it. You know, there's an oil painting drawer. That's a nice giveaway. 22.5 is where it's, you know, you get a black and white, and you're welcome to color it in any way you like. You know, a little bit of a coloring. The next one at 25 is, I've called it be an Easter egg draw, and it was lunchtime today when I was at work, and I was thinking, what could the 25k reward be? You know, the stretch goal. And I went, what if one lucky backer, they win for themselves to be in the comic, but as a poster on the wall hidden somewhere, right? And they're running for prime minister. I mean, I almost said president. You know, that's what everyone expects now. But running for prime minister, and so they would win. They'd be like, you know, it might be just 2 characters talking, but the poster is there. You know, because the prime minister is a big thing in Blam and Glam. You know, we had this thing with lockdown where they always got up to talk about the pandemic. You know, stay at home. You know, what was it? Hands, face, space was one of the things they'd say. You know, so wash your hands, keep away, and cover your face. You know, and then it was stay at home, don't spread the virus, protect the NHS, which is our hospital system. So I changed it to be stay at home, avoid demons, protect Blighty being in the UK. But the Prime Minister is there. And I just thought, actually, what if we saw somebody was trying to beat the Prime Minister in an electoral race? But then this whole thing has gone to shit. And so actually it's an opportunity for somebody, they'll be painted on there. They'll get an A3 print of the page they're on. So it's just a hidden Easter egg that will be on one of the pages somewhere.
Okay.
But there might be an opportunity as part of it where they turn up in season 2. And I kind of got an idea what that could be. So it can lead to a bigger role. Again, once they've won it, they're not paying for anything. They would, they'd appear in there and they get another print, depends on what I expand that role to be, which could be a fun piece for someone to win. Yeah, Jonathan wrote Pop Scars is great. I love Pop Scars. It's so cool. Pat, such a great job with that. I love Pat's work. Pat's so cool.
Yeah.
Pat's a good guy. He's a good guy.
You got so many cool people you introduced me to. And it just built this such a cool community. Some of us are artists, some of us are writers, some of us are just comic fans. And it's just it's so many cool people, like Adrian Cleric. I love Adrian. It's so cool.
Adrian's a good guy too. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, he was going to be here today, but he had a damn football game to watch. not really, but
it's probably. Well, what time is it? He's probably still at work, actually.
Is he?
He's 2 hours behind me, so it'd be almost 4:30 for him his time. So he's probably just finishing up work.
Well, Adrian with his comic, I remember I saw. I can't remember which issue it was. It might have been 2 or 3 when he offered the figure, and I went, "I'm the first to buy that." And I wasn't. Somebody else bought one. I bought that, and that's in a box over here. I'm like, "That's precious cargo." That's And the minute he did that, you've got the figure as well. And the minute he did that, I was like, "Okay." And he's got that amazing. Exactly, the Trakovi figure is just amazing. I've still got that boxed over here, kept pristine. I'm like, I don't want that to go wrong. And the minute he showed the photo of his whole Marvel figures on his wall, I don't know if it's DC in there as well, but there's all sorts of figures. And I went, do you know what? He didn't know it was coming. So when his comic arrived a couple of issues ago, I sent him one of the figures for free. I was like, because this, if this is on your, I didn't say put it on your wall. I just went here, he just opened up the figure and went, oh wow, I know you put. I just thought to be part of someone's collection would be amazing.
Oh, he let me know about that.
Which one was figure 3? That was that the sexy glam one? Because like the brunette one.
That was That was for the issue 6 campaign.
So issue 6 would have been figure 2. Yeah. So it's the all blacks. It's what I think I called it stealth. The stealth fatigues one. Right. I don't know why she's stealth fatigues because you can still fucking see her, but it was like. That scene, there's a scene where she's standing in the Houses of Parliament.
That's what they would have called it in an old toy line, though, man. Like honestly, like they would.
That's it. My favorite Star Wars figure, one of my first Star Wars figures. I mean, my mum bought me a sand person. She had no idea what Star Wars was, so she bought me a sand person. One of the sand people, and I was like, "Well, that looks cool, but that's not Luke Skywalker." But 10 out of 10 for trying. And she then bought me Ugnaught, and I was like, "Yeah, we're still not quite getting this better." But and then I actually got Luke Skywalker best pin fatigues.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I'm using that. So it's like, what's she say there? Awoken fatigues, battle fatigues, and then this one's Awoken fatigues as well, but that's because it's issue 6 when you see that version.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I love stuff like that. I'm like,
yeah, man.
That's been fatigues. That's what they call the khaki suit that he wore in Empire Strikes Back. I just call that the Empire khaki suit, personally.
I'm glad with that because that one I got, I remember the figure I got was slightly different material to the rest of the figures. So you guys had Kenner and we had Palitoy here. So they had the license, they had the same molds and they did all the same things matching, but it was Palitoy here. And I had a Palitoy Bespin Fatigues figure and he felt different to the other ones. And I was in junior school and I've always been gullible, I can't help it. And my friend said, "Hey, we're going out to play lunchtime. Everyone put your figures in this box. It'll keep it nice and safe." First time I ever learned there are sneaky fuckers in the world. And everyone got lunch, took their figures out, and then I got left with this Luke Skywalker best friend fatigues. All the paint was cracking off. It was a completely different feel. And I was like, "No, that's not my figure." And he went, "Yes, it is." And I got robbed, because I was stupid enough to I just put it in my fucking bag. And then I don't care what you're saying. But I've still got that figure to this day. It's in one of the boxes over there, like it's all, it's all chipped and shit. But as a reminder, there's people.
Yeah.
But I remember it had a different feel to it, which is just crazy.
I didn't know they had different companies making the toys. Like I just figured they made it all in one place and just shipped it worldwide.
Oh no, you buy the license and they send you the molds. Like when Hasbro got Takara, the Transformer molds, and all that shit from Bandai and Namco and stuff. Like, yeah, they license it and then they send you over the stuff to make them, and like you can make them and stuff, and but like you make them with your materials, so like it might be a slightly different type of plastic depending on what you make your plastic with and stuff. So like it very well could feel way different than an American, Luke Skywalker.
I mean, most of the line felt like what you had in the Kenner line. I think by the time we got to Jedi, Palitoy were out of it. I don't know why, it was just Kenner. So I remember as a kid, I then get the Kenner Return of the Jedi figures, and I'm going, "This is a knockoff," right? It's not. I to be honest, couldn't tell you what a knockoff was, but I was like, "This doesn't say Palitoy on it. Is this like just weird?" But yeah, I wanted to get hold of an old. My first actual Star Wars toy was a die-cast X-wing, and it's a Palitoy. It's a 1978 Palitoy die-cast X-wing, and I want to get a sealed one again.
Which ones are more like sought after, like Kenner, Palitoy? Is there a certain brand that was made in the world that people like to get? That one is rare, and everyone
Whichever
if you see that one,
whichever one probably made the less of is probably the desirable.
See, Palitoy they'd have made less of because it was just for the UK market, but the original Kenner 12 backs, that's the ones that are sought after.
Yeah, the Christmas ones, the ones that came late, like they were supposed to come out for Christmas in '77, I think. And
the mail-in box one. I mean, that's something else. I remember there was one year they were trading for £100, and I wish I'd bought one. Wow. Second hand, because now they'd be like 500.
Yeah. See, I had a friend whose older brother had the big Millennium Falcon. You could buy the case where you put all your men in.
Yeah.
They had like the suitcase and stuff, and he had like 20 different Star Wars figures and stuff. It was crazy.
Darth Vader's head, and like you opened it up like a case, and you put all your figures in there, and they had little racks for the guns too. Yeah.
He had the little C3O and a Chewbacca one as well, I think.
Yeah, and he had the little where the crusher, where the garbage crusher, and it was like the foam blocks in it.
Jonathan, I did do that once. I got the Anakin Skywalker figure from Proofs of Purchase.
The one because we never had the mail-off ones. I think that was just the US. We didn't have ones you could cut them out and mail them off for. I just remember one year we have a retailer here called WH Smith's, and they sell like toys and magazines mainly, And I remember one year after Return of the Jedi, I'd been out for 6 months, they all of a sudden had a whole you dug your hand into the basket to find different Return of the Jedi figures. They were just selling cheap. And I remember I had an Anakin one with the really rubbish painted face artwork. They'd just gone, "No, we can't find a decent enough high-res image, so we'll paint his face." Looks shocking. And I had the Han Solo in carbonite figure, the Luke Skywalker with the removable helmet. I wish I'd just picked up a load, because they were like £1 each, which would have been our pocket money. And I wish I'd just bought a load and put them in a box somewhere. I'd have been.
Yeah. See, the only ones I did the mail-in thing was the G.I. Joes, where you can mail in the Like you cut it out, and I think one time I mailed in for the Sergeant Slaughter figure when it was GI Joe. Yeah, that was one of the mail-ins. Yeah,
we used to, the only mailings that we'd have was something on it wasn't even Star Wars. It was something on cereal packets. So Weetabix, you could mail in 4 tokens and get a Weetabix mixtape, which was cool. But then we also had these crisps called KP Space Raiders, which they were like 5p a pack. You know, completely, you know, completely made up crisps, terrible flavors, and you could mail off and get these figures that were this space battle thing. They were only about this big, and they were quite cool. But yeah, it's mad.
So, man, issue 7. How's the shipping for that going? You got almost everything out for that? I know you're pretty okay.
They're all out except 5. 4 of those are people who. One of them is digital, and they haven't given me. Oh no, actually, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't one of them. One of them is a sticker, and they still haven't given me an address. And 3 other people have still got to fill in their addresses. And I do keep reaching out to them, so I'm going to reach out again. But there's a 5th one, and that's an A2 painting. And that's someone who backed an A2 painting previously, and I got that out to them. But this time, they've said I want this, but they haven't got back in touch to provide an image for it. It's a very different thing to Blam and Glam. See, yeah, the Space Raider spaceships, you know the ones, and they were metal figures made by Britain, a company called Britain over here.
Like pewter, like a cast metal.
Yeah, and they were painted. They were really cool, actually. And you had like you had the good guys and the aliens, and they were always on these weird stands. You get them apart and you plug them into this stand. Yeah, they were a bit like if you've seen the Warhammer miniatures.
Okay.
They're that sort of scale, and the same sort of material. Yeah, but yeah, 7's pretty much shipped. So just those last 4, 5 people get in touch and I can sort theirs out. There's one person who ordered after, and I've got to ship theirs out this weekend or this week. I'll probably get that picked up Friday, so I've got to remember to ship that one out. It's hard when people don't, if they fall out of the Kickstarter or if they miss the Kickstarter, I then have to have a separate list and try and keep track of those things. So it's quite hard to do those. That's why having the Kickstarter is quite cool, because you get all the information. If you do it right, you've got all the information you need, down to every single item they've bought in a reward, which is cool.
So yeah, if it gets down to it, you could like contact us like without Kickstarter's involvement, right? I mean, you're kind of not supposed to, but you probably could, right? I mean, I'd let you email me, no problem.
Well, Kickstarter, you notice on the previous pages, you can provide any link you like. So, if you want to fulfill it another way, as long as you fulfill the Kickstarter, once they've taken their fees, and as long as you deliver what you promise, Kickstarter are happy, which is cool. It's just when people drop off, because the pledges didn't go through or there was an error, and then you try and catch up that way, that's fine. It's still, make it available so people can still join part of the thing. I just don't want to do the, I know some people like it, the backer kit type of.
No, nobody likes backer kit. No, don't fall for that.
Like, no, I mean, I don't want to do it because I want people to know up front what they're going to pay for shipping. I don't want to mess around with it.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to add something, I'll just say, look, I'll make a note on your thing and we'll do PayPal. You still get a charge with PayPal. It's the same.
If I see you using backer it, I do not back it. That's how it goes.
Yeah. So, like we said earlier on in the episode, in the descriptions is a link for the new Kickstarter. You got about 5-6 days left, so just under a week left on the campaign. So I mean, you've built your following, because you have consistently in the last 4 or 5 campaigns, I'd say, consistently had over 300 backers for each project.
How fast did you fund? Did you keep track of it this time? I mean, like we were going to try to do a launch party for you, but like that kind of fell through. But like, did you pay attention when it launched? Did you see how fast it funded?
On this one, yeah, I mean it funded. I mean the good thing is you've always got tools in Kickstarter, so even, I mean it funded really quickly. But the good thing is you can always consult the tools afterwards. And what's the middle part of the Kickstarter is always the weird bit. And that's where no one can see your campaign unless people really are unless you've got massive backers. Even the best ones, they're quiet in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it explodes at the beginning. And this time we offered special offer rewards. So if people backed sooner, they got
the early birds,
early bird prices, which I thought was quite cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think that did boost it a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just logging in.
So so just reminding people, this is issue 8 is closing out the first arc. And there will be a second arc or second season, as Richard likes to say. Will be the following story, which will be another 8 issues. So man, this closes it out. And like all your other campaigns, you have the full catch-up tiers as well, where you can get issues 1 through 8. So if you haven't read Blam and Glam and you want to get the whole story, now you can get the whole complete story, issues 1 through 8. So you could back that tier as well if you want the whole story one shot. If you're a binge reader, well, this is it. This is the campaign for you, for all you binge readers. This is it. 1 through 8, the whole story, the whole shebang. So yeah.
And you could get all the different covers for most of the issues too, right? Like I think only a couple of the figures have sold out, right?
Well, the figures are actually sold now.
Yeah, the figure's still out, but like you still have most of the covers for all the older issues.
Yeah. So we still got first editions of all the covers, so that's cool. And there are some of the rewards if people want to get it's the first time offering the entire set of nudes, including a second issue nude we've never done before.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
which is mad. We now got all of it.
The nudie tier.
I just didn't do it consistently. Actually, the yellows was 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, but the reds, I didn't do a red nude for one, because she had her back to you, and even 2 didn't have a red nude. I don't think. But anyway,
so that's like a not safe for work tier. The nudie tier. The NSFW tier for the whole story.
But then again, when I look at issue 1 cover, I go, most of it looks NSFW. There are
Yeah. Which is fun because like that other picture, you get a lot of different colors, right? So it makes for fun, variations and stuff. Yeah.
People see that you read Blam and Glam, they know you like to party. All right, that's what.
Business in the front, party in the back, or is it the other way around?
Jonathan's saying, there's there are lots of new backers to this campaign, which has actually been quite good. There's at least 70. No, there's at least it's between 60 and 70 back issues, like per issue. That have been sold. So 70 more in 7 because some people playing catch up. But the digital, but also in digital, people were buying the digital ones. So we've probably got something like 120 new backers, which is amazing. I just want to hope that we got quite a few project followers. I just hope they convert.
Yeah. So yeah. And I mean, Richard's a great guy too. So. Never had any problems. You always fulfill great. You package stuff great as well, so people don't have to worry about your professional, like top notch all the way through. And man, like, no one has to worry about anything. Like everything comes really secure.
Yeah, he doesn't just use a Gemini type box. Like he tapes it super securely. I mean, like this thing is. Like the president's inside of it, man. Like it's taken care of. Like
I'd like to make sure that everyone's issue is bagged and boarded, and then it's in. You're right. It's like in that Gemini type mailer.
Have you ever? That's a great suggestion by Randall, man. Have you ever thought of doing like a calendar?
Oh no, I should do actually. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, that'd be a nice little like add-on or You know,
Yeah,
people
way-
can
I
snag
know
it.
you
Yeah.
can do her like as a nurse and as like a firefighter.
Yeah, like those dirty calendars. You could do all like with all the
Holding fruit.
not safe for work covers. That'd be pretty
I was
awesome.
gonna say, I'd have to do 2 versions of the calendar. There's the
Yeah.
everyday version, and then
That
the
would
fireman version.
sell like hotcakes, man. That would sell like
version.
hotcakes. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you could like mark out like milestones like from the campaigns on it and stuff. Like when issue 1 was the anniversary for issue 1, anniversary for issue 2. Yeah.
No, that's a great suggestion, Randall.
It is a great suggestion. That's fantastic. I love that. Yeah. That's when you do your like your in between one, that could be something you could add on as a little extra throw in or something. Yeah.
You get a signed
discount for Randall, yeah.
Actually, I tell you what, there was one thing we did on the last one which was quite fun. I haven't got a picture of it. And somebody bought a vandalized. It made me think because they bought a vandalized version of the red cover. It wasn't the red cover; it was the entire issue. And basically, I just took a marker pen, a white pen, and a silver pen, and just scribbled whatever the fuck I wanted across the cover, across the pages, changed dialogue. Drew, all sorts of things on people, and I'm surprised. Somebody wanted that. I was like, cool, okay, we'll do that.
It would work for Johnny, man. Is it Johnny that wanted the Vandal version of your comic?
No, that'd be good. Yeah.
It fit the theme. Yeah. Well, Richard, man, always a pleasure talking to you. We'll have to get organized and do that Electra Assassins episode that we've been talking about. We'll have to get on that, get organized for that. And but I know you're busy these days with the campaign and stuff. But once the campaign wraps up and you have a little more time, we'll definitely we'll have to do another, because it was fantastic when we did the Cali episode with you. Like we had tons of fun.
The Cali guys, Daniel and Robert, they loved the video. They got high praise for the video we all did. But it was easy. The comic was fantastic. The book graphic novel was fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to when we do the Electro one.
Yeah. Also got stray toasters for Joe, so like we could probably do that as well, because you mentioned that. And we're doing some Bill Sienkiewicz, man. Like I like to sample all over his style, especially like his time at Marvel. Like a lot of people, I don't mention it too often, but I loved his work on Moon Knight. I know it was like him doing traditional pencil work and stuff like that, but like it just was so neat to see him work outside of his normal medium. I kind of dig that. Like when you see guys like him and Frank Miller play like old school rules and draw like in that classic way. It's not their most interesting work, but at the same time, it's kind of cool to. Yeah, there we go.
And you got the Moon Knight's book. Oh, you got a Moon Knight issue. I've normally got it to hand. I got the Bill Sienkiewicz Moon Knights and Assassins book, but the paperback edition with the oversized prints and the black and white pages. Oh, just wow!
It's too high up there. Fuck it. I'll put it back later. It was easy to take down. It's a little harder to put back up. Yeah. So once again, Richard, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And man, everyone go back. This is it. Wraps up the first arc. So get in on this, because it'll probably be a little while before we get where you'll maybe, I don't know if you'll get the chance to get these again before you start up the next season, or if you'll add this as extras on your next your issue 0, or you're in between your filler issues. So who knows? But don't miss the boat. You got 5 days left to back this, so go back this, and you're back in the comic from a great dude, man. So go give Richard a hand, and get the word out there.
8 issues in 3 years. Each each campaign, like the momentum just grew, like doubled under some of them. So yeah, like then there's a reason for that. This book is quality, and like yeah, it probably will, in my opinion, get definitely republished by a bigger label in the near future.
Yeah, that's better production than the guys from Image early on, you know?
Yeah.
And then we're doing it.
See the disappearing blood fucking cover.
Yeah.
Have a disappearing top, maybe. That could be interesting.
You rub it, yeah, with the. It's if you rub it quick enough, it turns into an FU cover.
First, you should do an ink cover, and you know, the old pen.
Yeah, like the pens. Yeah. Oh, that's something you could put, like a Blam and Glam pen. I wonder how much those would cost to get made. There must be that must be on the novelty places where they print and stuff. They must have those pens as novelty.
Yeah, there's gotta be like one shop still out there just waiting for somebody to make those again. You know what I mean?
You could do like a whole SNFU tier where you get the calendar, the pen, come up with all these old school like dirty things from past decades and do like a whole tier with like the the dirty tier, like call it the crumb tier or something.
Got the Texas tier and it make Blam and Glam mud flaps for trucks. For the rednecks out there. Got some Blam and Glam mud flaps.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Thank you both. It's always a blast. We end up with joy because we're just smiling so much. So,
yeah. All right. So, we'll be back next Tuesday, right, Joe? Because you're busy on Friday.
Yeah, we have a fundraiser this weekend, so I'll be pretty busy this weekend. So, yeah.
So we'll probably be doing that Big Tuesday on Tuesday that we've been planning. I have everything ready for. But
yeah, we pretty much Well, I have to do the intro, but yeah, everything else is a go on that. So
we'll see you guys on Tuesday, hopefully. That should be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about The Immortal Iron Fist by Ed Brubaker and Matt Fraction, as well as Cave Carson Has a Cybernetic Eye by Gerard Way and Michael Avon Oming. And what's the other writer's name? There's a co-writer on that. I forget his name. Dave.
I don't have it in front of me, so sorry, dude. We'll get you when we do the episode. Yeah.
But yeah, this was a really fun episode. How'd we get here? We really hope you guys enjoyed it. We really hope you guys like Blam and Glam and check it out, and check out Richard in the future, because I see anything but good things in the future for this guy. So yeah, keep it coming, brother. Back that Kickstarter.